As this season continues to go on for the Washington Nationals, we're starting to notice something. We're pretty set with the catcher position, but is there a competition brewing between Ruiz Adams and Keibert Ruiz?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And thank you guys for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. I will admit it's going to be around 22-ish minutes. We'll see just about that. But in these two segments, we got some heavy hitters because we're going to highlight Cristhian Vaquero. And a lot of you may already know the name, the 18-year-old stud down in rookie ball, but he has been very impressive over the course of this season. And if you don't know, the Nationals spent basically all of their 2022 international signing money on Cristhian Vaquero, one of the top prospects in that class. I believe the number 2 prospects on most sites in that international class. We're going to highlight him because he has been really good and really impressive in multiple situations down in rookie ball. So I'm going to tell you about him a little bit later on. But first, let's tackle this catcher position, because if you remember at the 2021 deadline, when you make that trade, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, two of the brightest stars in this Nationals organization, a lot of people were caught by surprise trading away at Trey Turner, because you look at it and you're like, well, we could have re-signed him. He wasn't the Boris client. We've seen all the Boris clients walk out the door, but Trey Turner was the one that we weren't going to trade, that we would re-sign. But as we know, that didn't happen. We traded him away. And that got us Keibert Ruiz and All-Star Josiah Gray. Keibert Ruiz was the higher prospect, according to a lot of different rankings. And in fact, at points, Keibert Ruiz at one point in his career was a top 30 prospect. This is a legit catching prospect. And the highlights about Keibert Ruiz was, 1, that he could hit for power. And 2, he's a solid defensive catcher. Not a world beater, not the best defensive catcher in minor league baseball, but he was a good defensive catcher. Fast forward 2 years now. At that deadline, not only did we acquire Keibert Ruiz and Josiah Gray in that trade, but we also acquired Ruiz Adams, who was acquired for, we traded away Brad Hand to the Toronto Blue Jays. We got back Ruiz Adams. And at that moment in time, it was kind of like like you see Ruiz Adams, you see what he's made of. He's a big moose, is kind of what I say. And not really much else. Because when you make that sort of trade where Brad Hand is not going to be demanding a lot in return, you don't really have that many expectations for someone like that. But fast forward to this season, 2023. And at this moment in time, Ruiz Adams, you can say what you want, but he has outplayed Keibert Ruiz. He has outplayed him by defensive metrics and as well at the plate. Because as we sit here today, Baseball Savant has Ruiz Adams in the 66th percentile as far as pop time goes, going over to second base. And as well, he's in the 20th percentile as far as framing. Now, while that's not good, that is not good. It's still below average by a well amount. But then you look at Keibert Ruiz, and that in the analytics surrounding himself, he is 3rd percentile as far as pop time to second base. And then he is in the 8th percentile as far as framing goes. The metrics show that Ruiz Adams so far this season, for the 2 main categories that I kind of really do care about as far as catchers go, Ruiz Adams has him beat. Not by a long shot. But I will say the pop time is definitely by a long shot. The framing, they got to do better. And I actually do believe Rob Friedman, pitching ninja, pointed this out the other day about Keibert Ruiz framing. I believe it was him. If it wasn't, I'm sorry to whoever put that video out. But you kind of see what Keibert Ruiz struggles with, at least what he has struggled with so far this season. Framing and really pitch recognition in general as a catcher. But then you look at the plate and what they both have done so far at the plate this season, and it really isn't even close. And the main general question is there a competition brewing as far as catchers go here in Washington? And I'm here to say no. You might say to yourself, well, Riley Adams has been the better hitter. And statistically, he's been the better defensive catcher. And when you look at guys like Patrick Corbin pitches better when Riley Adams is back there. That's been a thing since 2021, when Riley Adams first got the call up to the big leagues, first caught Patrick Corbin. Something clicked for them, obviously. What is that? Who really knows? But the proof is in the pudding at this moment. Riley Adams has had a better season than Keibert Ruiz. He's had less opportunities to fail. He's also had less opportunities to succeed. But in his moments of just playing, he's been good. And as we've seen over the course of this season, Riley Adams is starting to get a little more playing time, and that's what it should be, by the way. Because if you look back to the 2019 team, Yan Gomes and Kurt Suzuki, both very reliable, good catchers, good all-around catchers. They can put the ball out of the yard. They're going to play solid defense and do all the right things that you want your catcher to do. Now, let's be honest. I don't think if you were to ask Mike Rizzo back in 2021, if he were to have thought that Keibert Ruiz would have been a platoon catcher with Riley Adams. But at this moment in time, tanking does you nothing. And now, while I want to see Keibert Ruiz take that next step to develop, to be that guy, to be that prospect that we all thought, it's okay if he were to just be a platoon guy. It really is. Now, you could look back at that trade and say, well, we definitely got hosed. Fine. That's fine. I think I would make the other argument. You got an all-star pitcher with Josiah Gray, who's locked up for quite some time right now. Keibert Ruiz also got him a cheap extension, which I don't care what anyone says. The Nationals cannot lose that deal. 8 years, $60 million, sign me up any day of the week for that. So when you talk about Keibert Ruiz and the stuff that he hasn't really showed so far this season, because we all thought he was going to take this big step up, including myself, I still believe Keibert Ruiz is going to be the guy down the line for this Nationals team. But it is worth noting that Riley Adams is not some pushover. He's not some over-the-hill Matt Wieters type like the Nationals had in 2017. This isn't that. He's a lot better at this moment in time than that Matt Wieters, in my opinion. Because Riley Adams, you can say what you want. Through 25 games and through 95 plate appearances, he's got a .299 batting average. He's got a .350 on-base percentage. And most importantly, he's got a .552 slugging. That's good for a .903 OPS. That's a pretty big sample size. And again, only 87 at-bats through this season, even dating back to last year. Riley Adams was not very good. He was not very good at the plate. But this was also still a third-round pick out of the University of San Diego. And the Blue Jays, now while they traded him away for a rental with Brad Hand to try to make the postseason that year, didn't really work out for them. Brad Hand was not that good. And this also kind of goes to show you how I've always kind of thought that this development staff up in the major leagues is starting to take a step up. Now, you look at guys in the past like Carter Keibum who have gotten to the majors and who have failed, if we're just being honest. But now you look at Riley Adams in this situation currently. It's okay for him to catch a little bit more than Keibert Ruiz at this moment in time. Because the way that he's been hitting in general is very good. It's encouraging to see that we have this development at the major league level. Now, while Riley did spend some time in AAA last season, most of the time he was up in the big leagues. And he was making a decent difference as well. Because you saw what he did with the pitching staff. He just kind of clicked a little bit more with that staff last season compared to Keibert Ruiz. Now, Keibert Ruiz has the higher upside. Don't get me wrong. And again, I still think Keibert Ruiz is a good defensive catcher. He's got the ability. Last year, he was really good defensively in my mind. But he's taken this step back this season. And that part of it is a tad concerning. But at the end of the day, if you were to ask yourself this 2 years ago, that you have a catcher who, with Keibert Ruiz talking about him, that is locked up for the next decade, and two, who's not a bad hitter. Yes, he's been one of the unluckiest hitters in all of baseball this year. I highlighted that a few weeks ago. You can check out that episode on YouTube or really wherever you get your podcasts. But Riley Adams is starting to show that development period to where not a lot of people expected with him. And I've kind of seen people throw this around. Is this a competition? No, it's still not a competition. But also, it could be a platoon, and that's totally okay because of the contract of Keibert Ruiz. Now, if this guy was still a Boras client, which, by the way, he jumped from the Scott Boras ship, signed with someone else, and got that extension with the Nationals. If this were a Boras client, I would be a little concerned. I would be just a little bit concerned just for the fact that this is going to be someone that the Nationals really banking on to re-sign and to extend. Well, Keibert Ruiz and the Nationals, they got into that early and signed that contract extension this offseason. And it was a smart one from both sides. Keibert Ruiz got his money up front. Mike Rizzo and the Nationals, they got their catcher, at least they think they have their catcher for the next decade plus or whatever it is. And it's a smart decision for both sides, in my opinion, because Keibert Ruiz at this moment in time hasn't been that great. But he has also, on the other hand, been one of the unluckiest hitters in all of baseball. So when talking about Riley Adams, comparing him to Keibert Ruiz, the Nationals need to find a way to get Riley Adams more at-bats. Simple as that when it comes to me. But what ways will that come? In what ways can that even happen? Because you have Joey Meneses, and oh, by the way, the 3-run home run last night in the bottom of the 8th inning to take the lead against the Colorado Rockies. That was a shot heard around the world. It's tough to bench him after that. But even then, Riley Adams is going to have to find a way to get more at-bats. Maybe is it getting some first base help? Maybe you ship him over to first base and try to have that big power bat over there. So he's 27 years old, and he just turned 27. He's pretty young. He's going to be turning 28 next season. This guy's young, again. So the Nationals are going to have to figure out a way to really maneuver this turmoil with this catcher position because it's a good situation to have. You have a former top prospect with Keibert Ruiz, and again, a top 50 prospect in all of baseball, according to many different sites out there. And you also have a Riley Adams who's really starting to develop and show his potential as a number 2 catcher or even someone that you could flip at this deadline. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he brings too much value to this table at such a young age. And also, he's locked up for quite some time as well. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen every day. The Nationals, you can catch them in every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. I want to highlight this prospect who doesn't get a lot of highlights, you could say, just because he's 18 years old, down in rookie ball. And let's be honest, rookie ball, not all the best competition down there. But with that said, his numbers are impressive. And the potential of what Cristhian Vaquero brings is exciting nonetheless. I'm going to tell you about Cristhian Vaquero and what he has done down in Florida. But before we do that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Sleeper. Do you guys want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Do you think Aaron Judge could hit a home run tonight? Because, well, we sure do. And he is back, and you can get him on Sweeper, and you can swing for the fences on up to 100-time payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stat categories like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. What are dynamic payouts? In short, each player projection now has a multiplier attached to it as opposed to preset multipliers based on the number of legs in a contest. With dynamic payouts, Also comes more stat categories to place contests on, and you can get higher payouts than other apps with less picks. And plus, it just makes watching the game so much more fun. If you're watching your Nationals or whatever team out there, it makes it fun. Use promo code Locked On and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 38 states. Check out Sleeper today. Now let's get back into it, as we are going to highlight a Washington Nationals prospect, and that is Mr. Cristhian Vaquero. As we sit here today, according to MLB.com, he is the number 7 prospect on the Nationals farm system list. Now, he will probably drop just a tad bit considering Dylan Cruz, Yohandy Morales, and Travis Socorro will be added to this list eventually. Now, will those guys jump him? Dylan Cruz definitely will. Yo-Yo Morales, probably not, but we'll see. We'll just have to see what they do with these updated rankings. But as we've been saying, Cristhian Vaquero is kind of someone who is a really interesting prospect, because as we sit here today, he's 18 years old, he's down in rookie ball, and really, he's still really young with a big tool talent. You look at across the board, he's got a 50 hit tool grade, he's got a 55 power grade, he's got a 70 run grade, a 55 arm, and a 55 field, making him an overall of a 50 grade prospect. Now, Cristhian Vaquero was signed for $4.92 million back out of Cuba. He was moved over to Dominican, played some DSL ball last season, looked decent, but even then, it wasn't crazy numbers. But he was also 17 years old while doing this. He had a 256 average last season, a 379 OBP, 341 slug, good for a 720 OPS in 55 ball games with them. Only had 1 home run, which was a little less than I anticipated. But what I did like from him, 38 strikeouts compared to 33 walks. It's a pretty good strikeout to walk ratio as a 17-year-old. So now let's take a listen to 2023. What he has done so far this season is a little similar along those lines, except 1, more power, and 2, he's getting on base at a better rate. And really, he's also hitting for more average. But what this guy displays is a center field kind of talent, someone who could command the outfield for a Nationals team and even bump out someone like a Dylan Cruz or a James Wood. That is how good of a fielder Cristhian Vaquero is. But again, 18 years old, there's a lot of development to be done. So it's way too premature to say that he's going to be the center fielder of the future. But the way that the Nationals invested in him, as I said, this is someone that got basically the entire international signing pool from the Nationals. $4.925 million of their $5.179 million signing pool. He got it all, basically. There wasn't really much left to sign after getting Cristhian Vaquero. And really, that's kind of what I like. You're getting the number 2 prospect. You're going to have to give up a ton of assets for it. You gave up basically all your money for him. I like taking a big swing in the Dominican department. So when you're going into this, in rookie ball, you don't really look at the numbers and say, wow, this guy's going to be legit. He's got to get in low A. He's got to go up to high A and then climb on up. That is when I'll start to really look at the numbers and crunch them down. But the 5-tool potential of a Cristhian Vaquero, someone who's really solid defensively, someone who's one of the fastest guys in this national system. When you talk about his defensive ability, the hit tool, and the potential tool of power as well as he continues to grow. Because he's 6'3" right now and only 180 pounds, according to MLB.com. Now, I'd imagine he's going to grow quite some bit. Is it going to be in height? I guarantee you it's going to be in weight. We've all grown a little bit of weight since we were 18 years old. So when talking about Vaquero, I think the power will come eventually because he's got that frame already. And if you've seen pictures of him, just whether of the Nationals player development Twitter and what they've posted of Vaquero and whichever Twitter account you follow, Nats Farm, whichever it may be, you see the frame on this kid. He's going to grow into his own body and just get bigger overall. But when talking about him now, he's got an interesting makeup as well. As his mother was an Olympic swimmer and his father was a judo fighter. And it's clear the 18-year-old has picked up these athletic traits from his parents. And really, we all know that. We all know that when you have an Olympic parent, you're going to pick up some athletic traits, especially coming from the country of Cuba. I don't know anything about the Olympics, to be quite honest. I just know Cuba, it's in the Caribbean. They have pools. They have the ocean. I'm assuming they're going to be pretty good at swimming. I don't know anything, but it's hot all year round. I'm assuming they're going to be really good at swimming. That is a good trait to have, just to have someone who is an Olympian in your family. So besides that, and what Cristhian does best, in my opinion, it's his strikeout to walk ratio, and that is something that you don't really see at this young age. This season so far, he's got 22 strikeouts compared to 21 walks, and again, only 29 games this season. He's not striking out all to all. He is striking out a decent amount, nothing crazy, but he's also walking at a rate that really shows pitch recognition. You know who also had pitch recognition at this young of an age? At least that's what they say, is Juan Soto. Juan Soto, now, before people jump the guns here, he ain't Juan Soto. I'm not going to say who he is yet. He's 18 years old. This kid's still got to grow. He's still got to mature, and he's got to get up into the minor leagues. But this is good nonetheless, that he's walking and striking out at this rate at this young of an age. Because as he continues to go up in professional baseball, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. Because when you talk about this Nationals team and this Nationals development staff, you could bring up the questions there. Yes, you can bring up all the questions in the world about if you trust this player development staff, if you trust what they do in the international market, as we've seen some big swings and big misses as well. Because back in 2021, Andry Lara, one of the biggest international signing classes for that Nationals team in quite some time, one of the best pitching prospects in that class as well, has really struggled immensely throughout really any level you look at. But Vaquero is already starting to show some promise as he's sitting above an 800 OPS. He's getting on base at a 416 clip and has a 392 slug. All of those numbers are improvements from last year. And again, he's also got 10 stolen bases in those 29 games. He had 17 stolen bags in 55 games last year. So if you see that rate, he's already starting to make that climb into being just an overall better player. He's growing and he's maturing. That is what you want to see at this rookie ball level. Now, some people may ask, when will this guy be in the majors? Or when will he be in Fredericksburg? Well, to be quite honest, I don't know if not a lot of people know this or not. Ethan Salas from the San Diego Padres, a 16-year-old, is already in low A for them. The Nationals have always done this a little weirdly. They don't really bring up guys too quickly. Now, there could have been some issues that we just simply don't know. Not saying injury related or anything like that, but you just never know. The international signing class and everything like that is weird, and there's some legal stuff that you have to worry about as well. But it is a little strange to me that he's still down in rookie ball. I would expect for him to be called up to low A Fredericksburg really at any moment now. Because at this moment last year, I thought he was going to be in low A Fredericksburg by now and potentially even knocking on the door of Wilmington to get the call up in late August. Somewhere around that. So over the next month, that's where I kind of expect for him to at least get a cup of coffee in low A. And then next year, he'll hit the ground running. He'll be in low A Fredericksburg. He'll be a FredNat, and the talent will be on display. And that is when we can start oozing over this talent, over the 5-tool potential, the superstar kind of traits that Cristhian Vaquero brings. Because that's really what it is. When you talk about the high rate of walks at this moment in time, while it's not the most exciting thing in the world, it shows me beyond that, oh, he's just getting on base. It shows me that he's got plate discipline at this young of an age. And that, again, really someone we haven't seen like that since Juan Soto. So all of this kind of goes into play with this Nationals farm system. And really when talking about the Nationals prospects in general. Because I think this Nationals team in the future could be a little bit bright if you have your development in the right way. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen. You can catch every pitch in the Nationals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. I will catch you guys tomorrow on the flip side. Again, I apologize for this little bit of a late show today. Had to deal with some other things as I had a doctor's appointment right in the middle of a noon game today. Not great. I apologize. I'll be back tomorrow. You guys have a good one. Go Nats. It's the middle of the Rockies game right now, to be honest with you. Hopefully we're winning. I haven't been able to check the score, but hopefully we're winning so we can win this series. Go Nats.